For what I am doing, I do not understand. For what I will to do, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do. You probably also had this dilemma in your life. It is true that in this particular part of the Bible, Paul is talking about the role of the law and how it helps to reveal sin in our lives, and that we cannot be justified in this era of grace by depending on the law because we cannot perfectly obey the law. It is unfortunate, however, that many believers use this part of the scriptures to justify the fact that they can continue to sin. But that is not the point of this video. True children of God have this type of conflict in their lives, whereby they find themselves doing things that they truly do not want to do. And if you are a Christian, you probably have experienced this type of thing in your life where you really want to do what is good. You want to do the commandments of God. You want to obey God. You want to obey the Holy Spirit. You get those promptings about what you should do, how you should conduct yourself. You come up with objectives and goals and you want to pursue them. You really want to accomplish God's will for your life, but every now and then you realize that you are not able to do that which the Spirit is telling you to do. Now, there are three things that I want to talk about concerning this conflict in your life. Maybe this could be helpful in your Christian walk. The first thing to understand here is that this is a conflict that goes on in the lives of every true believer. I'm talking of believers who have decided that they want to do God's will. As a matter of fact, there are believers who do not have this type of conflict in their life. These are the ones that have assumed that just because they gave their lives to Christ, nothing can shake them. But those who are mindful of the things of Christ, those who have these promptings and leadings of the Holy Spirit, get exposed, get convicted by the Holy Spirit from time to time about certain things. Because we are humans and we are moving towards perfection, there are certain things that we do not get right, and we may not obey the Holy Spirit correctly. Even with our good will, our holy desire, our motivation to do God's will, we do not do certain things correctly, or we miss God's voice at some point. And so the Holy Spirit brings certain promptings, and we realize at some point that I wanted not to lie in this situation, but I find myself lying. I want to stop masturbation, but I'm just struggling with it from time to time. I want to get rid of this anger in my life, but it does happen that from time to time I fall in the same sin of anger. I want to stop smoking. I want to stop a certain addiction, and so on and so forth. You can name so many things that we are caught in life and that we struggle with in our lives, even as genuine Christians. It could happen that you are struggling with something in your life because you intentionally want to do God's will. You have taken that decision that you want to serve God, you want to do His will, but you find this obstruction. Those good things that you want to do, you are just unable to do them. You find yourself doing the things that you do not want to do. The first indicator here, the first thing you need to know here is that just the fact that you recognize that you have this conflict in your life and that you are making mistakes and that you have not done God's will is a clear indication that you are a child of God. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to remain in that state, but if you have this conflict, if you are struggling with this conflict, it is an indication that you are a child of God. And if you do not have this conflict in your life, I question your Christian walk, because true children of God get convicted by the Holy Spirit every now and then about things they need to improve upon. True children of God accept correction, they accept reproof, they accept rebuke, and this rebuke comes from the Holy Spirit. If you don't have this conflict in your life, it means you're living as a loose Christian. The second thing you need to understand here is that this is a battle that will continue for life. If you are a true Christian, there's never going to be a time when you will be free from this kind of battle, because this is a control mechanism that God put in you to help you move towards perfection. Each stage of the Christian walk has its own challenges, and no matter how much you have grown in the faith, there's always gonna be some times when you feel like you missed something. This conflict is there in your life to help you examine yourself, seek what is wrong so that you can make corrections. And so I don't know what you are going through right now. I don't know the sin you're struggling with. I don't know whether you're struggling with an addiction. It could be smoking, it could be drinking, it could be pornography, it could be masturbation, it could be lies, it could be talking like a parrot, disclosing information about people, jealousy, envy, negative thoughts, all kinds of negative things that you're struggling with. You just examine your life. You know what you are going through in life. It could be, as I'm talking right now, that you're struggling with something. All of us Christians struggle with certain things. And the conflict is not just inviting you to call this thing you're struggling with out, but to bring it into a place where you can put it under scrutiny, where you can apply certain measures that lead to the third point. And the third point, of course, is that this conflict is a clear indication that you need grace in your life. You see, the thing that you're struggling with, you cannot overcome it by strength. There are certain things that we struggle with in life that we can't overcome by strength. No matter how we try, it's going to be difficult. You could decide that you are going to stop drinking right now, but you realize that after 2-3 months, or some just after a few days, they give up and they go back to drinking. Some struggle with cigarettes, pornography, and all that stuff. Some of these things are not easy yokes to break. They require grace. They require that we humble ourselves and go to God and ask Him for the grace to overcome. When you find this conflict in your life, when you are not able to do that which you know you should do, it's an invitation that there is something in your life that you need to call out. But not only calling this thing out, not only exposing this thing out, God is inviting you to ask Him for grace to overcome. Remember, the reason for grace in our lives is to help us accomplish things we cannot accomplish by strength, to give you ability to overcome the desires of the flesh. And usually when we have this type of promptings, it is because our flesh is entangled in something. And so grace comes in to give you ability to focus on a life in the Spirit, to overcome the addiction or sin that you're entangled in. It's my prayer that this video was useful and that it helps to bring you closer to God and helps you examine your life and just look at areas whereby you think you're struggling with something, and just take that thing to God, and God will give you the grace to overcome. You do not have to be afraid. Of course, if you want to continue to live in sin, you should be afraid, because there is judgment that is coming. But you do not need to get into that state. Just bring your sin to God. Just bring your trouble to God, and God will give you the grace to overcome. God bless you.